So Jenna, welcome back. I know it's going to be a quick hit thing, but I'll link to the previous podcast so people can learn more about you. But you've got a show coming up. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. On December 7th at 7 p.m., I'll complete my Evansville Bridge Year Fellowship, which I started last year. And this is the culmination of all the work I've done this year and then some pieces from past years put all in one. It's in the basement of the LA building at USI called the Mac Pace Gallery. For those who aren't familiar with it, it's if you drive around the back of USI, you can't miss it. It'll probably have a big sign up and say, "Hey, Mac Pace Gallery." I have photography, graphic design, and painting pieces. And I've also taken some of the paintings and transferred them through like a graphic process onto clothing and different cloth elements too. So I've got a whole bunch of different pieces that'll be there and new ones debuting that people haven't seen yet.
Cool. And that's on the 7th of December.
Yes, it's a Wednesday.
And then, but if people can't make it out,
it'll be up from December 7th through January 16th.
Okay. It's same place.
Yep, same place for a whole month.
Great. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks.
Thank you.
Hello and welcome to Evansville Podcast. My name is Jason Burton. Thank you for listening. If you're new to the show, thanks to WNIN, then welcome. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then that's okay too. We've recently gotten an agreement with WNIN. They're featuring a segment on our little show here and some of the other networks' shows. So that'll be happening on Thursdays, usually I believe around 7:40, 7:45-ish. And also, I believe sometime in between 4:30 and 5 time frame. I'll get those times nailed down eventually. But every Thursday, we should be on there having a 4-minute segment or so, just kind of talking about what's going on with the shows for this week. Or, you know, if there's some other relevant information, we'll be passing that along. So, like I said, if you're new to the show, thanks to WNIN and welcome. Today, if you heard at the beginning, Jenna Citrus is having an exhibition coming up next week, the 7th, I believe. So make sure to check that out. Go out to USI, check her out, check her work out, and tell her we said hey. Also, we will be featuring a local nonprofit organization here frequently. This week we are talking to Ashley McReynolds of CMO, the Children's Museum of Evansville. That's coming up right after this. And then after that, we'll be getting into the Innovation podcast with Michael Thissen of USI and the I-69 corridor, Innovation Corridor. So we'll get into all that. So let's get right over and talk with Ashley. She stopped by here a little bit ago to talk about the recent nonprofit budget cuts that happened in the city. So we wanted to help out and get the word out for them. So talk about what they do and why it's important to support them. So let's get into that. So recent budget. Is it budget cuts? Are we calling it that, or are we calling
the paper and
budget adjustments? But yeah, so I just want to make sure I'm calling it. I guess I'll check on that.
I think they're considered budget cuts because they were trying to balance it, and
right. So
nonprofits got it.
The amount. So the original amount, was that a recommendation or was that agreed upon at some point?
So the original amount, the original amount that we've been receiving for multiple years has been $51,000. And last year it was cut by like a little under 50%. So we got cut down to $28,000, which for CMO is difficult because the city operates on a yearly basis with their budget. We run on a July to June budget. So we accounted for the $51,000 the first time. The second time we counted for the $28,000. Now we're going to get $14,000. And our understanding is that we will be getting zero, it sounds like, from now on. What makes it so difficult is that we use that funding for operation costs. So things like staff cost or our water bill. We're lucky enough that our building was donated to us by the city and the library, so we don't have a mortgage or any overhead for that to pay. But when you think about donors that do grants and also our larger companies, they want to fund the things that are awesome, not necessarily a staff person. Or even like I said, our electric bill, or we have Quack Factory. It's 5 stories and it takes a lot of water. So we have a water bill. And that all fluctuates in an older building during the winter months. And so our heating bill can be a little bit. And so that's what that money was going towards, is towards our operation. So it does hurt. However, we are an organization that has admission that we charge. So it's not as difficult as some of the other organizations that solely rely on donations and grants. So,
and can you talk just a little bit for people who may not be aware of of all the things that CMO does? Maybe just talk.
Okay. So the Children's Museum is over 18,000 square feet of hands-on learning. So we encourage families and children to touch everything. But what we really specialize is early childhood learning. So much of a child's brain develops before they actually are 5 years old. And there's not a lot of early childhood learning activities for families and children in the tri-state area. So that's why actually we were initially formed, was to meet the need of that early childhood piece. Now we do a little bit of everything. We are that early childhood, but we also do summer camps. We do spring break camp in partnership with 4 other nonprofit organizations in Evansville. We have field trips that have a classroom component to them. We have an outreach program that does scholarship funds for children and field trips that can't typically come. Right now, we're working on a STEAM, depending on who our room, called it's a maker space, and it will incorporate tools and technology and teaching kids how to use those together. So we're basically a giant learning institution for all intents and purposes. And so the need really in Evansville to have that, where families and children of all ages can learn together, was high when we were formed back in 2006. Well, before that, actually, as Hands-On Discovery before that. So yeah. I was a Hands-On Discovery kid. So.
Oh, yeah. That was in Washington Square Mall, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that seems like
forever ago.
But I can't believe 10 years, right? For CMO, this is the 10th.
Yes, we turned 10 on September 29th, and it's the 10th in the building. The building was actually built in 1931, so it's a big old building. But yeah, we turned 10, and we have at least 5 more years of plans that we're working on now, and so it's just we're continuing to grow. We have 3 brand new exhibits on the 3rd floor that are going to happen, hopefully. We have had this campaign called Grow With Us for the last year that we've been working on. The Evansville Convention and Visitors Bureau challenged us to raise $1 million. Currently, we are only $62,000 away from that $1 million.
Wow. Once
we raise that $62,000, the Convention and Visitors Bureau will be giving us $245,000. That money from the Convention and Visitors Bureau will fund the rest of our Kids World exhibit on the 3rd floor, which starts in downtown Evansville, and we'll have 3 components to it where our sister cities are, so Japan, Germany, and Mexico, and that will take up half of 3rd floor. We have an amazing grant from the Arts Council that we are creating an art studio with, and then Berry Plastics is funding our maker space. So that $1 million is going to go for things like helping build those, helping with our infrastructure. Again, it's an old building, and finishing our basement, which I'm really excited about. But there's many, many things that $1 million is going to go towards, but it's not going to sustain us. It's going to be admissions and continuing grants and donations from the community that sustain us.
And so donations from the community specifically, Where and how is that done?
Donations are easy. 2 ways. One, you can come to three. One, you can come to our front desk. The second, you can mail something. We have a P.O. box, so it's P.O. Box 122 in Evansville at 47708. Or you can just go online, cmokids.org, and there's a big Donate Now button on there. And there's several different levels, and they fund different things. Like I said, one of the great needs that we see is our Helping Hands Scholarship Fund for schools that are unable to afford field trips. And we're hoping to expand that actually to include families with foster children, and several different types, so that more families are able to come. Cool. So it's easy to donate to CMO, and the donations do make a huge impact, not only on the physical building, but also on the children in the community.
Mr. Thissen, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's been a while.
It has been. Lots been happening.
Yeah, so maybe is this a catch up from where we were and like what's going on, where we're going?
Sure, it's a ketchup and a mustard and a mayonnaise, and throw a little pickle relish on it, and we'll be good.
No condiment humor on this podcast. Thank you.
Oh, this is going to be a very innovative podcast.
Okay, I like it. That's the only ones I do.
Yes, but I think we're here to talk a little bit about innovation, and if you don't mind, I want to start off with a quote.
Sure.
I'm not going to say who,
okay,
and I'm not going to cite when this quote was put. But those who know me might have an inkling. So here's the quote, and then at the end of the podcast, I will cite it.
All right.
Because since I work for a university, we always cite our sources. So remember, plagiarism is wrong, kids. Remember that. Here's the quote. We've stumbled along for a while, trying to run a new civilization in old ways, but we have got to start to make this world over. So that's how I want to start this. Okay. What I want to talk about is innovation. There's many, it seems to be the buzzword.
Yeah.
A lot. It also has many definitions. None of them are necessarily wrong. None of them are necessarily right. But what I'd like to do is sort of dispel some myths, talk about some of the activity of that is innovative. And before we did this podcast, I did send you a couple of homework questions.
Yeah. Yes.
So this is the time where
this isn't a normal thing that my guests do to me.
So this is a time where I actually get to ask the great Jason Burton, what is your definition of innovation?
So I take innovation as a big leap forward in something, either a process we currently do that instead of incremental changes, we take a giant leap forward, or something completely new that we hadn't even thought of doing before. That's kind of where I'm landing on that.
That is probably the best definition I've heard in a long time, really. A lot of people sometimes look at the term innovation and go right to the dictionary.
Yeah. Which
means, it's, I think they throw the word change in there. I think they throw in make improvements, maximize. If you're a Beatles fan, it takes a sad song and makes it better.
Right.
So all you maximizers out there, you're innovators. But I think I kind of want to educate a lot of folks that everybody is really innovative. And it just depends on how you go about in your walk in life. So for instance, homework assignment number 2,
the more challenging one.
Well, and it has to do with Evansville podcast, because you've now run this for a little while, and I'm deeply grateful for the first time, and I'm even more grateful to be invited back to, help further this wonderful initiative along. But do you think what you do in your professional life is innovative?
See, and that's the question. So I don't know if I consider this my profession. You'd have to get paid to have a profession, right? With the profession that I do not consider innovative, but that is just because I'm just a run-of-the-mill software developer. So what I'm doing there is not necessarily innovative in any way.
We'll argue with you that in a little bit.
Well, we don't have to worry about that part. I don't want to burn any bridges on that.
All right, so let me rephrase. In the context of Evansville podcast.
Yeah, I wondered if that might be where you were wanting to go anyways. And I don't know. That's a tough one. I'm not sure that I am all that innovative. Certainly wasn't the first one to do it, and I'm not the only one to be doing it. So I don't know. I don't know the right answer to that question.
Okay. Would you care if I would you care if I sort of gave you an answer and sort of just sort of let you?
Please. That's the best kind of teacher.
Absolutely. I for one believe you are doing innovation, because think back to, what is this now, the 125th podcast? What number are you on?
I stopped counting because that was just,
I know, and
that was work.
You know, I was really trying to gun for that 100th one, and I know that I missed that little vote, but
she was much better looking. So
okay.
I had to put her on there.
That's why I'm on a podcast, folks, because I do not do television very well. I mean, come on. I've got a face for podcast.
It was my wife. So
very good, very good. Actually, as a side note, I really appreciated her thoughts on the TEDx process.
Cool.
She and I participated in the TEDx process, and what a wonderful process that is. And
she is
congratulations to TEDx, and you know, that's innovative. So back to podcasts. Think back to your first maybe 2, maybe 5 first podcasts.
Yes.
Where were you?
Not great.
No? But where were you?
But yeah, I was at Innovation Point.
Your Innovation Point.
Yeah.
Sort of some couple of I think it was 1 or 2 microphones and a
one microphone, big microphone in the middle of the table, and let's just talk and figure out what the heck I'm doing. Mm-hmm. That kind of thing.
And now look back on that, and let's see. Have you been doing this for about 3 years?
About maybe? 3, yeah.
3 years?
It's almost 3.
So 3 years later, look where you're at now.
Yeah.
What you've done is you've taken some of the best practices of what you're able to do. You've gained experience with it, and then you've thrown in your lessons learned. I'm sure there were some lessons learned along the way. Gee, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Maybe there was something with editing. Maybe there was something with such and such. Have you ever gotten a call back from a podcast person saying, "Why did you put that in there?" You know, things like that.
Maybe.
I'll bet you still do.
Maybe.
But the idea though, Jason, is that, you know, you're 3 years into this, and you now have a studio. I mean, we're sitting here at world headquarters for Evansville Podcast.
America's Evansville Podcast.
That's innovation, my friend.
Yes.
You are an innovator. And to me, an innovator is someone who can get up in the morning and brush their teeth and put on clean clothes, or not so clean clothes, you know, and go out and say to yourself, I can make a difference. Whether it's software development, because you are making a difference, whether you want to create something or go about your day-to-day business, not only are you thinking about and doing innovation because you are out there in the world and figuring out how you can make an impact, you're also doing economic development. A lot of people have an idea of economic development, which is the same kind of language as innovation. Everybody has a different idea of what economic development is versus innovation. I'm here to say is that innovation can happen with anybody at any time and anywhere. It's just a matter of having desire, hardcore desire that says, you know, I can start from point A and I can get to point C, but I want to go through point B and have a little fun along the way or have some lessons learned. Innovation is a lot of things, but for the most part, it is getting from point A to point B, even though the path may be a little fuzzy. But that fuzzy path is part of the adventure of trying to get there. So when I look at Evansville Podcast, I look at just how innovative it has been, and then think about where Evansville Podcast is going to be in 3 years from now. You might have better equipment. You might have you might have tripled your reach, which, you know, eventually I'm going to talk about reach.
Yeah,
because to me, my footprint is a lot larger than Evansville, and I'm going to throw a little love to Evansville right now, but I'm also going to push some boundaries a bit and say, look, Evansville is our economic hub. It is where the population center is. It is where a lot of synergies are, and we need to have Evansville to continue to do the great things that they're doing. When you look at the downtown piece, Joshua Armstrong, God love him, he's doing fantastic work. You look at the Franklin Street piece, the Haney's Corner piece. You look at those 5 neighborhoods that were put out in that one plan. and how they're getting worked is amazing. When you talk about our city core, and I've gotten many years under my belt in urban development, but mostly in rural development. Really, it's your city core. It doesn't matter how big your city is or your town is. It really is about the core and how synergies feed into it. I have a top 5 list of my region, and my region carries very large, about quality of place pieces. And number 1 on my list, believe it or not, is the Evansville Philharmonic.
Really?
That entity, that orchestra, that professional musician guild, if you will, feeds out a lot of outreach. Not only that, but we look at athletics, we look at education, we look at a lot of other things. But when you look at a quality of life piece like the Philharmonic, you can't really have that and be a vibrant. You can't really be a vibrant city without something like that. When you talk about a quality of place and a quality of life asset, the Philharmonic is amazing. And just recently, I went to the Halloween piece. Did you go to that?
I did not.
Okay,
no.
That was phenomenal. And the way that creativity came out, and the way that people were really brought together, really sparked that sort of energy and synergy. Yep. Went to the Philharmonic 4 years ago when I first moved to Evansville. Yes, folks, I'm an outsider. More to the point, I'm an honorary West Sider.
Wow.
So, but when I first moved to Evansville and experienced the Philharmonic, 4 years ago, it's way different than the way I experience it now. It's richer, it's deeper. Again, it's that mindset. To me, innovation is this mindset about changing the way you think about things, raising levels of conversation. That's why USI started and built the I-69 Innovation Corridor, which I run. And the idea is to raise that level of conversation and have these conversations about who we are and why we are and how a shifting culture can really boost capacity and build our communities up. So with Love to Evansville, we have to have this urban core, because without it, we cannot do what we do. One of the initiatives that the city and a smaller region were able to capture was this regional cities piece. Right. And I'm sure you've had a couple of folks on before and talked about regional cities. From my perspective, regional cities had to happen. Yep. In order for us to really, really build the capacity of our urban core. That makes it makes my job a little easier when I go out and I talk to rural communities and I talk to other communities about innovation and talent development, how, the things that Evansville and the 3 counties that went in with Vandenberg, those activities are going to be very, very impactful throughout the entire region. And now the region can feed into it, but also Evansville can feed into the region. And this is where I'm going to start looking more regionally. To me, regional is a much larger piece to it. One thing that doesn't necessarily make it doesn't really cross my radar, are geopolitical boundaries. So when you look at a Kentucky or an Illinois, I like to think of our region by the economy. Right. We're really driven by the geography of economy and not geography of geopolitical. We can't overlook that 15, 16% of economy that comes over across the river and does commerce every day. So in terms of innovation, there's a lot happening here. There's a lot happening out there. And how do we do it? Well, we get up in the morning and we think about how we can do new things from what we have and how we can build into a future. I'm sure you've had some folks from Leadership Evansville, a lot, and they do what's called Strength Finders. And one of the biggest strengths that I have is futurist. And so, I like to get people to think about things, what's going to happen in 5 years? What's going to happen in 10 years? And don't you want a vision of growth, smart growth, but a vision of good quality of place, quality of life aspects that you want to keep your kids here and have them have the things that we don't necessarily have today.
Right. Yeah, which is I think that's one of the important pieces of that downtown master plan was that future vision and casting, or whatever they want to call it.
Sure.
But yeah, figuring out like where do we want to be actually, and even if a lot of it doesn't come to fruition, at least we're spinning those wheels and getting people thinking about it. Hopefully.
Sure. Well, and the folks from Puma in Denver were the consultants on that, and they really asked the question, and I still want to continue to ask that question of folks, especially in the core region. Well, I'm going to ask you now, Jason.
All right.
Where do you see? What do you think downtown will look like in 3 years from now?
3 years. Oh, geez. I think it will be. We'll have a lot more activity-based things to do, like not just bars, but I think we'll actually have other things than bars and restaurants, just because that need will start popping up sooner than later with the med school coming in and all that. So that's one of the things I'm hoping for and thinking that will happen. And it seems like we're on a good I wouldn't want to say path because it's in the name, but the bike path thing.
Oh, sure.
Is happening. It seems like the biking, the cycling will be a lot more prominent, I think, down here. So stuff like that. I think that's what pops in mind right away.
Sure. I mean, the usership will increase, especially if people get aware of that.
Once they figure out, I can go on these roads and it won't, the cars will let me ride as well. So, and as motor vehicles learn to kind of slow down around cyclists, that'll help too. But yeah, that certainly it's been more popular than I would have thought, just by anecdotally, seeing the bikes out a lot. So sure, that's cool, just from the get go.
Yeah, no doubt. And correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm not educated on this, but the half marathon, does it go through the 5 communities that?
I'm not sure. I know they changed the course a couple of years ago, and I'm not sure. Okay. After that, I have no idea.
It was just a thought, because I thought that was another.
I'm not a runner. I don't know if you can tell.
I'm not either, kids. I walk my dog. How about that?
Yes, I did that today. But yeah, the half marathon does travel through here, downtown here, which is pretty cool. Maybe one day we'll get back on running it, but probably not. If they allow cycling, maybe cycling's the best running,
or walking. I mean, I can walk 13 miles.
I could.
It's the 0.1 that I can't.
The first 13 are for pace.
0.1.
The last 0.1 is for race. That's what I've heard.
Yep.
But yeah, that more stuff like that. Yeah, like activities, and there's a lot of races now, which is crazy. Like 10 years ago, you couldn't find a race. Like I remember looking at the calendar trying to find a race every month, and you had to drive to I guess we'll have to go to Jasper if we want to do that, or I have to go up to wherever. And it's like now you can do 1 pound every week.
Yep.
So that part has jumped a lot in the last 10 years, but things other than that, I think we'll start seeing those kind of things pop up.
Sure. So let me insert innovation into this.
Gotcha.
Marathons, races, 10Ks, 5Ks, run for, your favorite nonprofit. Think back about 10 years ago when they were having the races and today. What new technologies have come up with running? What pieces of wearable technology do you have now? The evolution of running and new ways to invent and be ingenious about some of that technology, that's innovation.
Yep.
And so, to me, the purpose for me today is to sort of take some of these examples and then really sort of exemplify that what innovation is when you apply it, when you put it to practice. A lot of people have titles of innovation in their name. I know I have one, innovation this or innovation officer, innovation director of X, Y, and Z. But what does that really mean? It means to maybe exemplify, what you're doing in terms of maybe business development, technology development, economic development, or racing.
Yep.
Any kind of, subject matter or cluster that helps a community thrive. If you contribute to that, that's part of being in the innovation ecosystem. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So, running is a prime example. I don't run, but I can appreciate the technology that makes me run.
But yeah, right. or at least walking of the Fitbits now that we didn't even have a few years ago to measure everything. They're measurable, quantifiable results, that kind of thing. It's so much easier to get. So yeah, definitely.
Sure. So if you don't mind, I want to talk a little bit about talent.
Okay.
One of the things the I-69 corridor, innovation corridor, is focused on, it's really three things. It's innovation, obviously, entrepreneurship, which I'll talk about real briefly. I really want to hit innovation pretty hard with this. But another real key aspect of this is the talent development. What's out there and what's emerging.
Yep.
That's where USI really, really plays well with technology-based economic development. 3 years ago when we were at Innovation Point with the podcast, USI had a presence. USI has an even deeper presence now with parts of the accelerator. There is an accelerator in Evansville, folks. The Technology Commercialization Academy has innovated itself.
Yep.
Not only is it going after some of the Crane intellectual property, but it's really starting to look at our current businesses and how research and development will help, and put that through a technology commercialization process or an innovation discovery process. So Dr. Jason Sahlstrom is down at Innovation Point at the second floor. I encourage everybody to flood his office if you have an idea.
Yes.
Jason's happy to route people. Flood my office if you have an idea. I have a presence down there. I've got more. My office is more my car because I'm out talking to people. But really, in terms of innovation, the Technology Commercialization Academy is still going strong. It's in its fifth year. Launched, it's about 6 companies through that. There's some cohorts already in the Eagle Innovation Accelerator, which Jason has done a yeoman's job on. And then how do we engage the talent pipeline? And for me, that's getting younger and getting smarter. So how do we look at clusters and jobs for kids that we don't even know exist yet? The jobs, that is.
Right.
So if you're looking at a kindergartner, well, how old is your youngest?
She's in 4th grade. She's
okay.
9, 10-ish, around that area.
All right. 4th grade, maybe younger.
Yeah.
We don't know what exists there in 12 years.
Right.
10, 12 years. What's out there? College?
Imagine.
Is college an option? Right?
Yeah.
And then after college, you got another 4 years, try to figure it out. What are the jobs that are out there? We don't know. And so how do we sort of get ahead of that game? It's building that talent pipeline. So the Brainpower group is still going strong. There'll be a meeting in January, a quarterly meeting. We always have our quarterly meetings, and I'm encouraging everyone that's curious or interested to please reach out to me or to Angie Shepard at Work One. She's on the 5th floor. We could always use extra brains on this. But the activities that what we're doing is we're getting into the K through 12s and really, really looking at career pathways. One of the successful pieces that we've been able to do is the Great Southwest Indiana STEM Challenge, where we've invited high schools to come to. This is done at Oakland City University, nice central location, and what companies are doing in USI and in Oakland City is we sponsor slots to have high school teams of 4 solve real life problems. So, for instance, last year Kimball had Kimball was involved. They had a sponsorship and they had a challenge for the students to go through. One of the more innovative challenges is Far Best Foods in Knox County. They created a condition for the kids. They had to take one of those little marshmallow peeps. I'm gesturing here because, the television camera over there is going to be able to.
No, the people love it when you do that on the podcast.
I'm gesturing a little marshmallow peep.
Hey, look at this.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they take this marshmallow peep and the challenge is freeze the peep. using the materials. There's like dry ice and things like that. And the things that the kids came up with is amazing. That has grown exponentially. I mean, it's almost to a point where we might need 2 days.
Really?
Over 100 kids. More importantly, the sponsors. There's about 10 or 12 sponsors. Up to 16 sponsors can do this. They pay to get into to do the challenge, to solve problems. But the money doesn't go to anybody other than the schools. So we give back to the schools that come up with the most innovative and creative problem solving.
Right.
So last year, I think I know Huntingburg, Southridge took home some dollars, and Jasper took home some dollars.
Nice.
Kind of spread it around. It was an amazing event, and it'll be April 7th, 2017. That's something for folks to participate in and sort of be observant with.
Yeah, and STEM was science,
technology.
Okay.
What's the
I can't remember what the E is over.
Engineering. Sorry, I should know that.
I always blank on
Sorry, Dr. Mitchell. And math. And we do talk a lot about STEAM too, with the A, and that's arts. We definitely, to me, arts is also innovation.
Oh yeah.
Especially when you look at how much we've evolved with our arts scene. I'm first and foremost not an artist. I'm just sort of.
Oh gosh, I'm terrible at that.
But when you look at someone like Picasso, who consistently reinvented himself, his blue period, his abstract period, his whatever period, you look at artists like that can constantly evolve. Musicians.
Yeah.
I'll take U2 for instance. They put out different brands of music almost every time they put out albums, and again, that's innovation.
Yeah.
How do they it's reinvention? It's disruption. Sometimes innovation is disruption in a good way, sometimes in a bad way, because you need to have those lessons learned as well. Failure is okay. Failure can be an option, but don't let it beat you down.
Right.
More or less. It's okay to fail, folks. It's just a matter of how you're going to get up and react to that failure.
Fail fast, is that the motto there? Some people think.
Yeah, I don't know. For a while there, I had this delusion that I didn't believe in failure, and now I actually do. I'm pretty good at failing, but
it's pretty
easy. Also pretty good at telling people, look, it's okay. Let's be encouraging and move together and go forward. So
right.
We have evolved a lot of things, especially in the innovation corridor. We've been able to align some communities to think beyond, dare I say, the silos. And really think more in a regional context. So we're going long and strong. So the idea is that when you look at the talent pipeline, how do we connect our K through 12 to either college or certification or some kind of skill for 21st century jobs? I don't know when I'm going to be able to drop the 21st century, since we're already 17 years into it, or 16 years into it.
I vote for going ahead. Like you don't have to say www before a website. You don't have to say 21st century anymore. Yep. I think let's just agree with that, and we'll move on.
Right here, right now.
We've made the decision.
Yep. Jason Burden, right here, Evansville podcast, world headquarters.
Right.
I'm going to drop the 21st, but for jobs of now, but also jobs of the future. I mean, we got to think about how we're going to keep kids here, because when I talk about a talent pipeline we got to build, that only solves half the problem. The other problem is, how do we import talent? Because when you look at our region, and I'm going to be fairly blunt and bring people to a dark side here on this, but we have more jobs than we do people to fill those jobs. We need people to get certified. We need people to develop skills to put in those jobs. But if you develop all of our people who can develop those skills and go into jobs, guess what? We still have open jobs. Yeah. Believe it or not, our unemployment rate is low. That's almost a problem, because we have all these open jobs. Yeah. And when you look at the similar clusters, for instance, Evansville has plastics. Jasper and Dubois County, it's wood products. They're cannibalizing each other's workforces.
Right.
And so you have some issues there. So how might we import talent? And that's where that quality of place comes in. That's why we need regional cities. That's why we need the arts to continue to do what they do. Haney's Corner to develop. Jacobsville to develop.
Yep, absolutely.
The Promise Zone designation is a game changer. 10-year designation for opportunities to have inflow of resources to core neighborhoods in that zone. That's that's going to be impactful, and the idea is to attract the talent. That's why I need Evansville to continue to be the great place that it is, because it's tremendously a great place. But when you look at a Jasper and a Huntingburg, they're doing incredible stuff too.
Right.
Especially with Jasper and their initiatives with their development of downtown. Huntingburg is finishing up their Stellar Communities projects, and their new downtown on 4th Street is amazing. There's lots to do in our corridor. You go up to Knox County, and their numbers are so impressive. Downtown Vincennes is going on a tear right now. But not only that, the economic development office up there has been very successful in engaging the business and the industry into the schools and the parents, that routes those kids and those parents into that industry to say, look, we're open for business. Wouldn't you like to have a nice job here, stay here, and have? So there's a lot of synergies happening, and it's a lot of cats to herd. It's exciting, a lot of work in between, but that's the talent pipeline that we're looking at, is routing our best and everybody's our best, routing our citizens to great viable jobs right here that are open and ready to go. And I have to shout out to Jim Heck and Work One Southwest, because they're the champions of brain power, and they've been really, really driving this. It is about career and technical ed. It is about vocation. It's also about the 2 years. It's also about the 4 years. It's also about beyond 4 years. We have all of us working together in the same sandbox, because we've got a large pool to pull. Jim, the other day, told me that there were 20,000 people in Indiana Workforce Region 11, which is about a 9-county region here in southwestern Indiana. It includes Du Bois and Perry County, and then everything west. 20,000 people of working age, 18 to 64, I believe, that do not have a high school diploma. 20,000. And so that's an issue, because sometimes companies hire without a high school diploma, and you almost need one. But you also need a credential on top of that. So one of the things that Jim has been doing was to offer GEDs, or general equivalency diplomas, but the rate of people going through the general equivalency diploma is less than the rate of high school dropouts.
Oh, no.
So that gap is getting bigger. So that's one of the issues that Jim is dealing with, and that, in some ways, how do we encourage Jim and Indiana and Work One Southwest to continue to do the good work that they do and get more engagement out of that? Because it really is about developing our talent and with that aspect. So to me, that's involved. And then one other thing about innovation and talent. It's very, very complex. It's incredibly difficult to measure, but we've been under a measurement for innovation, where we take a lot of inputs. For instance, patents garnered, technology, how much IP is out there, how much venture capital. I will not have a venture capital discussion here today, folks. But if you want to have a venture capital one, feel free to reach me. We take a lot of those factors and see how they've grown. It has grown again. I think the last podcast, and I'm encouraging everyone to listen to that one, and how subdued I was back then. But I claim that we were measured by an innovation index, and that measurement grew 6% in 2 years at that time. We've looked at the innovation index again. We're pretty confident it has grown another 5 or 6%. So we're moving on the upward trajectory. I've got a little problem, though, with the innovation index, because guess what they did to it? They innovated it.
Well, of course. So you can't compare.
So the data's been granular. I can't boil it down to a local level. So so we're I don't want to say we're at square one, but when you look at, say, like the county rankings, county rankings are saying we're on an upward trajectory. While we're really, really good at business attraction and business growth, when you look at the economic dynamics of that growth and in terms of talent, there's a huge gap. I mean, that's one of the factors that has gone actually down on our index. So while business is going up, I'm hand gesturing again, our talent piece has gone down again. And so that's what we need to target and raise back up. That's something that a lot of folks won't necessarily say. It was actually exemplified yesterday at the chamber luncheon. And I know that you're airing this at a different time, but Monday the 14th was the Southwest Chamber hosted an economic outlook, their annual economic outlook, and it's mirrored. Yeah, there's an economist there that said, yes, we're great at business attraction, business retention, but when it comes to economic dynamics of that piece, i.e., talent, human capital, there's a gap. There's a huge gap with that. Indiana's ranked 42nd.
Oh, wow.
in the country. But the good news is that we can identify that and say, okay, let's target that and put all of our photon torpedoes on it and go, okay, we need to move that up and make it good. So that's the beautiful thing about data, is that when you look at that data, you can say, okay, we're doing great here. This is what we need to target. And it has to be multidisciplinary amongst, not just the STEM things, even though that's where we're heading. But when you look at liberal arts, humanities, you really got to have the humanities piece into it. That's the strength of having USI with their College of Liberal Arts, the Romaine College of Business, the Pott College of Science, Engineering, and Education, and the College of Nurse and Health Professions, all working together, fired up on all cylinders. There's a reason why it's all interdisciplinary and why it's all there, with a great engine down in Innovation Point. And then the other day, I'm gonna give some love to our other area universities. The other day, we were in Columbus, Ohio, at a conference, at a technology conference, and I was there. USI saw it on my name badge. I'm hand gesturing again, name badge, and he asked about Evansville, and I went on to explain, Evansville, it's southwestern Indiana, talked about the ecosystem, and he said, there are other schools there, right? And I said, oh yeah, there's the University of Evansville, which has, they're doing some crazy good stuff with the Center for Global Studies, really breaking barriers. They're doing social entrepreneurship like you wouldn't believe, social innovation. U of E is great at social innovation. And then an incredible strength in Ivy Tech, very focused on what their purpose is in Ivy Tech Southwest specifically. And the beautiful thing is it's all routing to our 4 years. Oakland City University, great small college, to where the guy was really mentioning. He said, wow, you have a lot of education. Like, that's very envious of other areas of our size that do not have these kind of higher education institutions that are right here. So that's something to be celebrated, and lifted up, especially when both in Indiana and in Kentucky, they have a community college system that's mostly put together, firing on a lot of cylinders. We just had an event in Kentucky regarding talent, connecting industry with post-secondary education. We had it on the Madisonville Community College campus. So there's a lot of synergy that are here. And then just today, which again, you're going to air this at a later time, but we were going to meet earlier in the day, but I couldn't because we had the state chief innovation officer down from the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. He paid us a visit, and we basically rolled out the ecosystem. He saw some of the assets that USI has and how it connects with our region. Very, very impressed Again, we are getting noticed by some very, very key folks, both at the state level, the national level. We got nowhere to go but up.
Yeah,
really, on a lot of this. We've done a lot of great work. It's now time for us to sort of turn outward and really talk about the great work that we're doing. We can we sometimes are a little modest in our approach,
right.
And now it's time to really look at this and go, you know what? 2 years of teacher boot camp and how that's grown. That's a great piece. Or work ethic certification in the high schools. Really? There's an online component. Let's make that statewide. That's actually happening. The problem is nobody knows about it. So like a lot of entities, and it's not exclusive to any one entity or anything like that. We do have a hard time telling that story and saying, okay, here's what we have done, and more to the point, how do we communicate with each other? Mm-hmm. We do a very good job actually internally communicating, with local economic development, what universities are doing, what industry is doing. Can that be better? Yes, but I also think a lot of things can be, improved. Just because we might think it's going good, it'd be good for everybody to sort of get in the room and consistently say, okay, here's what we got working on. Can we streamline and can we reduce duplicity?
Right.
So
I don't know how many times I've said, can we reduce duplicity this last week?
Really?
No.
Okay.
No. Oh gosh. Sorry.
Nope. That's all right. That's right. I'm expecting you to edit out about half of this.
No, I'm leaving only the parts in that you say I want to edit this out.
Okay.
So how, I guess, that's like a everybody we talk to problem is how do you get the word out? Mm-hmm. Because you want to talk about the great things you're doing. Not that you want to talk about how great you guys are, but like it's important to get the word out. It's like this is important to the community. And so, I guess I don't even know if I have a question about that, but if you have any ideas, please let me know.
Sure.
But also, like, let's call a normal person, just Joe Evansville or Jane Evansville that wants to just like, what can I do about this? I'm not in college. Mm-hmm. My kids are in school, or maybe I don't have kids, that kind of things. Like, how can I affect this, or how is this affecting me? Like, just what can I do? Sure.
Actually, in my presentation, I have and I'm also available for presentations. Happy to make a presentation to a local club or whatever, or even to an individual. So first thing to do is contact someone like me. Mm-hmm. Contact you. But really, at the end of the day, how might someone help? To me, it's volunteerism. If there's something that really, really sort of fancies you, I'm sure there's something that can be done. First, a good entry point is that Brain Power group. It's coming up. I think it's January 14th is our next quarterly meeting. I think it will be here in Evansville. We do move that around in the region.
Okay.
That's a good entry point. Another part is go down to Innovation Point, 318 Main Street, and head up to the second floor, or even head up to the fourth floor and talk to the chamber, or talk to USI on the second floor. Mm-hmm. Even talk to the local economic development folks there. There are professionals in that building that can route folks, especially if you have an idea or if you have a passion about something. Also, there's a lot of nonprofits that are here in Evansville that you can really jump behind a cause. So whether it's if you don't want to get into maybe the talent development piece, the economic development piece, the innovation piece, the entrepreneur piece, there are plenty of causes. Even if you join Franklin Street, for instance, mm-hmm. or the Haney's Corner group.
Right.
Doing neighborhood revitalization, neighborhood development is so much part of the innovation ecosystem. That's how someone can really, really help. If you're looking to really make a difference, volunteer at Franklin Street. The Franklin Street Bazaar. I know that Karen always looks for volunteers.
She will not turn down volunteers.
No, she won't. And I know that especially in December,
yes.
They're going to bring in an ice rink. How cool is
there's
that?
some stuff going down on Franklin Street.
And they spend a lot of money on that ice rink. So, go down, patronize the ice rink. If you got $6, you can skate on an ice rink on the West Library lawn, things like December 3rd through the 10th. Do something do something active in your region. Chris Kindle Market is over in Ferdinand.
Yep.
That's coming up this weekend. So if you feel like you want to go out and have a really good time, go to Ferdinand and do that, and then go shop 4th Street in Huntingburg. Go down into downtown Vincennes and see what they've done, there. I'm talking more regional now.
Right, yeah.
Madisonville has a great not only have some really good coffee, but they also have a really good core downtown that's good there. I guess at the end of the day, Jason, what I'm saying is that, again, you get up, you brush your teeth, you put on your clothes, you can make that difference. You can go out and do neighborhood revitalization. You can go out and talk to people who might know someone or that might be that person. If you're interested in starting a business and you actually have an idea and you have a vision and you're willing to work a plan and really go through a process, come down to Innovation Point. There's plenty of people that can help people launch and start businesses there. It's just a matter of that desire and wanting to, put in the 168-hour work week that it does.
Well, there's that.
Because in a previous life, every now I would get a call every now and then. It was after the economy bottomed out at 2008. I kid you not, I got about 2 or 3 calls a week from people who are out of work saying they want to start a business. And half of those folks, I pretty much said, well, you really need to think about it. And then there were some people that actually had some substance. And I still continued to talk them out of it because it's a big commitment to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And so there are folks out there that can help. But the first thing an entrepreneur must realize is they need to get the help that they need, and sometimes you need maybe a clergyman to help you, but it's actually a real thing.
Yes, right.
And then also I'm going to put in an unsolicited plug for Leadership Evansville. That's an organization that is a huge entry point into not just Evansville, but regional. They take a more regional approach these days. It's a good entry point for servant leadership. How might I help boost X, Y, and Z? They can help with the X, Y, and Z. They went through a voice process, as everybody knows, about 3 years ago. There's still plenty of projects on that board. So volunteerism is someone who wants to volunteer and get involved. It's very easy to do here. And definitely contact Leadership Evansville if you're interested with that, because they're a great gateway into bigger and better things. I've seen a lot of people transform when they go through Leadership Evansville, myself included. So, so that's a very impactful piece, and that's a very innovative organization. When I went through Leadership Evansville, I think it was the February 2014 class. Yes, it was February 2014. I mentioned a couple names. That was Joshua Armstrong. He was in my class. Amy Word was in my class.
Yep.
You see some of these folks now really evolving and really doing the things that they do. Yep. That's innovation.
Yeah.
Again, you take them from 2013, 2014, and you take them now, and it's just the turn of 2017. It's almost 3 years ago that we went through that class. Look at them now.
Yeah.
Look at what's evolved and what has been innovating. So to me, innovation is everywhere. It's just a matter of how do you jump in and advance that cause. I work in innovation. I don't necessarily, but I'd rather see people really sort of deeply appreciate what innovation is. And my hope is that I captured that here in this podcast. If not, scrap the whole podcast.
Just come back next week and we'll keep doing it until we get it right.
So I've tried to, I tried to exemplify it. So, I mean, if you pick a subject, any subject out of the clouds, I could probably tell you a story about how innovation might work with that. One of the reasons why that we have Crane is because of innovation.
Yeah.
We've developed a lot of things out of crane.
Yeah. And, you'd be surprised. A lot of people don't know what crane is.
Yeah.
So maybe like a quick
Sure.
thing of what is crane?
Crane is crane is the third largest naval base. It is the U.S. Navy. It's the third largest Navy base, and it's right smack dab in the middle of Indiana. Part of that is for defense reasons, and the reason why it's there is because there's a lot of research and development there. Mm-hmm. What their core purpose is, they make the ship and the plane better with new, high advanced, next generation technology that nobody knows about anywhere. The thing of it is that when they do the technology and put it in the jet and the ship, there's that intellectual property that's sitting there.
Yep.
They're not going to bring it out. Somebody has to go in and get it. And that's the value of USI. Enter USI, which is a nimble, regional engaged university. They started this relationship with them 10 years ago, longer.
Yeah.
And we've been able to solidify relationships and have agreements in place to help bring out that technology, that intellectual property, innovate it, and then move it. I haven't really talked about just how great this region is in terms of making things and moving things.
Right.
Who's ever gotten stuck on Ohio Street with that train or Franklin Street with that train? The reason why that train keeps doing what it's doing is because they're breaking freight records. When you look at CSX, they're breaking freight records in Indiana. When you look at the port of Indiana, Posey County, which is nowhere near I-69, but that port carries out half of all of Indiana's manufactured goods. Half. 3 ports of Indiana, big port, half of that freight comes out of there. They're breaking monthly freight records. It's not just about that new terrain highway, it's what's feeding into it. Mm-hmm. River, railroad, road, and air. And you've seen the new lines going out from the airport. The airport is one of the most tremendous. It's in my top 5. It's the biggest asset. It's one of the biggest assets that we have. And what Doug and Nate have done out there has been amazing. I try to educate people as much as I can about that. We just recently had a regional economic development meeting out there to let our economic development leaders know in our region that Evansville's open for business. The regional airport is a very, very convenient way to get around and be where you need to go instead of driving, Louisville or Nashville.
Right.
Because riddle me this: if I fly back from Nashville and I'm tired, okay, I've got about a 2.5 hour drive, right?
Yep.
Or if I fly back from Louisville, man, I got to drive all the way across Indiana for me to get home. You get off on a plane in Evansville in the evening, 10-minute drive.
Yep.
So it's and then you look at the cost benefit of that, break even. Mm-hmm. I mean, it doesn't cost any more in terms of time and money.
Right.
So that's where I'm at with our wonderful region on that in our innovation piece. So so I hope that I've exemplified, gave some examples of innovation. Mm-hmm. I also hope that I kind of defined it a little better. It still has to stay in the fuzzy, simply because you can't. If you put something solid on the very definition of innovation, you're not really innovating. If that makes sense, it still needs to evolve and grow. But the nutshell piece of that is that innovation is advancing. Innovation is basically taking a sad song and making it better, in a nutshell. So, and then I kind of, I didn't know if you wanted to wrap this up or if you had any final questions or, I talked about entrepreneurship a little bit, just, 318 Main Street Innovation Point is a good starting point with that. So,
yeah, no, definitely. I think we're good. Let's not make it 2 or 3 years again before we talk.
No, absolutely. And I do want to come back to that quote that I started in the beginning, because not only was that a tease to get everyone to just sort of listen to me, but really in light of the climate today and where we're at, I'll read the quote again, and people might think this is a modern quote. Well, it's not. The quote is, "We've stumbled along for a while trying to run a new civilization in old ways, but we've got to start to make this world over." That was from Thomas Edison in 1912.
Man.
So, and I could regale everybody with quotes left and right. There's some great ones out there, but, to me, it's impact. It's all about impact. It's prophetic. History does repeat itself. We're all going to be okay. So, I just want to encourage you to keep evolving Evansville podcast. I think it's needed. I think it's pioneering. I also think that anybody who wants to innovate can, and that there are resources out here in order for which to do it. And USI is really taking a good lead on that.
Yeah. Thanks, Michael.
You betcha. Thank you, Jason.
Hey, special thanks to Paul Eason for allowing me to play one of his songs off his debut EP, Moving On. It's available on iTunes or wherever you like to get your music. And just make sure you go and check out Jenna Citrus next week at USI, and also donate or buy a membership or something for SEMO. They're doing some great things in the community, so please go check them out and help support them. Thanks to Michael Thissen for coming on and asking me questions about innovation and just telling us the really cool things that are going on in the area. So, yeah, thanks. Good job, everybody.
I wanna be free. I wanna be